Hello and welcome to the Soul Elevation Podcast, guiding your ascension to new heights. I'm your host, Kara Goodwin, and I'm so excited to be here with you today, Monday, August 4th. I want to talk today about remembering who you are and what that entails, because when we are on a spiritual journey, we can think about that there might be like a version of us that we're remembering, meaning maybe we're trying to remember who we were in a past life or who we were in a galactic life, who our higher self is. There might be these more spiritual and less grounded ways that we think that we need to remember who we are. And that those things are a part of who we are. So it may help us to get access to past lives that we've lived or off planet aspects of ourselves, other dimensional aspects of ourselves. That can be helpful in our journey because we can then kind of step into the gifts that those other lives may have for us. But I believe that in this human life, fundamentally, our opportunity is to become more whole at the human level by accepting the entirety of who we are. So if we think about the word remember, this came to me. I was reminded of this in the Galactic Summit that I hosted over the weekend because Mina the Andromedan talked about remembering, and the way that she said it, she said, remember, and that was all she said. But it did remind me of the first time that I had heard of this decades ago in Neil Donald Walsh's book, Conversations with God. And in that book, which I would say is kind of a channeled book or automatic writing, but having had Neil Donald Walsh on the podcast previously a couple times, maybe three times, two or three times, um, he clarifies he doesn't see it as automatic writing, and I don't think he really saw it as channeling either. But anyway, I digress. But that he dissected that, the core of that word is member. And then we're remembering, meaning we're taking these pieces, we're taking these members, these separated members of who we are, and we're integrating them. We're remembering. We've got this throughout our human experience. We kind of fractal out, we fracture out through trauma and through the ego. There become all these aspects of us, and a lot of those they become hidden. Again, when there is trauma or when there are parts of ourselves that we don't like, we can turn our backs on them and pretend that they're not there and bury them. And that is where we create these shadows. So if you've heard of shadow work, this is another piece of the Galactic Summit from this weekend. Tony Ghazi talked a lot about how the shadow has impacted him lately. And if you've heard other episodes of mine on the soul elevation, I've talked a lot about that this year too. This has been a big component of my 2025, where I'm understanding the shadow in a different way, and I'm understanding the importance of the shadow in that, in ascension, the importance of embracing the shadow in our spiritual development, in our ascension, in our journey to becoming higher dimensional, fifth dimensional consciousness. To get through where we are into a higher state of consciousness, we need to be whole. We need to be unified. We can't move to a higher level of consciousness without alchemizing and healing those parts of us that we're not dealing with now. Now, different people have different levels of trauma. So this may not be something that you're able to do on your own. This may be something that you need to work with a therapist, or maybe you need to work with a trusted shaman, a trusted therapist, I should also say. You know, whenever we have somebody helping us with our psyche, we want to, be very tender and make sure that we're getting the right the right level of assistance for us, because that's a very, we need somebody who we can really trust. That's a very delicate part of our being. But I can say from my own experience that it's been very important that I see those parts of me that I haven't been wanting to see, whether those are reactions that I have, um, memories that I don't like, that were painful, that I have buried, have been coming to the surface. Um, and this opportunity is here for all of us. And it keeps presenting itself. So it's not even just about the previous things. So I've talked in previous episodes about things that happened decades ago that I'd forgotten about that show up, and my inclination is, oh, I don't want to look at that. As soon as I remember it, I'm one, shocked that I had forgotten about it. And two, I'm immediately like, oh, don't think about that. That's not going to take you anywhere nice. You're going to feel sad about that. You're going to feel embarrassed. You're going to feel, and so my immediate response is to turn away from it. Don't shut it off. Don't think about that. You're better off not thinking about it. But then I catch myself. Well, goodness knows how many times I haven't caught myself, but I try to catch myself when that happens so that I can say, wait a minute, if this is coming to the surface, it's time for me to release it. And so this actually has come up even in the last few days for me. So, life keeps happening. So it's not like we just, face our traumas, face our shadows, and then we're done. Life keeps happening. And so I personally have noticed something in my world where I was feeling a little bit left out. And there were a couple of things that happened that kind of exasperated that. And, one, it was just a specific situation that had happened, and I understood the situation. It wasn't that somebody was deliberately trying to hurt me. It was a circumstantial type of thing where, and I completely could see that from their perspective, like they had a lot going on, and they were being pulled in a lot of different directions, and things just kind of fell through with plans that we'd had, and that was fine. But then some other things happened, and with other people, and it was just it. I could feel myself starting to get my feelings hurt, which is okay. Sometimes our feelings do get hurt, and that can be completely legitimate. But I could feel that part of me starting to take over. So there was a part of me that was feeling, really, when I came down to it, when I really started unraveling it, and it was like, well, okay, really looking at it, what is it that I feel? I was like, I think I actually feel jealous. Jealousy is the root of what I was feeling. Being left out, being was part of it, but I think that what really, I didn't mind so much being left out, but then I was starting to feel this jealousy of like other people not being left out. And then I was like, okay, I think that's really what's got the teeth here. And so then once I could really identify it honestly, because I don't want to think of myself as the type of person that is jealous. And so I didn't want to admit that to myself. That took a lot within me to, even when I kind of suggested it to myself, is it jealousy? It was like my inclination was like, no, I'm not jealous. Don't be silly. And then it was like, wait a minute, actually, does this name fit? And I was like, yeah, I think that actually, if I'm going to be really, really honest, I think that's really where the core wound is here. And so I then, once I could really get to the core energy of what that was, then I could work with that and I could see how there was a part of me that was trying to amplify that. There was a part of me that was really trying to lean into this story to justify my jealousy. And it was like I was behind the scenes, like picking this wound and really leaning into this story, really leaning into the victim aspect of being left out, because there is a part of that story that's true. I mean, I could really lean into that and I could convince everybody that I was left out and it was unfair. And so there was this justified part of that, but there was this other truer part of the story that was it that I knew it wasn't personal. And I knew that this person was really overwhelmed, and I knew that the person that I really wanted to be was I wanted to be the person that they could break the plans with and know that I wouldn't hold it against them. That's really who I want to be. I want to be the person that people can feel safe to say, okay, well, I don't need to worry that she's going to make me feel guilty about this or not understand. And that was the part of the story that was really the truth. I mean, I know the truth of this, and that was the highest truth. That was the undistorted truth. But there was this jealous part of me that was trying to distort the highest truth, to bend it, to invert it, and to really lean into the fallout part of it, which was, hey, my feelings got a little bit hurt by that. And again, it's not that that's not true, but it's not the full truth. It's not the highest truth. And so there's been this whole alchemization process that I've been going through. And there's been even some, I mean, this again, this is not like big T trauma here. I'm just using this as a current example. I understand that people have a lot worse things going on than this right now, but I'm just using this because this is what's shown up in my life. So I hope that in some way that it's helpful for things that might be happening in your life, because life just keeps happening and we just have to deal with it. But it's important that we recognize that things can start to chip away at us. Things that can look like they're no big deal can blow up, and we can really lean into it and say, no, this is the story and this is what I'm gonna, and that chips away at our joy, and it chips away at relationships, and it fractures ourselves because we're creating these members that are these painful aspects of ourselves, and they're getting more life, they're getting more energy. But when we can be truthful about what is happening in the moment, or, when in the period of time that we're in, as life is happening, we can really dive into it and be truthful with ourselves and have that alchemization that happens, that we can remember who we really are, and alchemize that. And then what I was starting to say is we can pray about that. We can talk to God about that. We can talk to our higher self and say, okay, I mean, this is what has been part of my process anyway. This is, and I would recommend this, having this conversation inwardly with God, who loves you, with your higher self, who is on your side, who wants you to keep growing, to keep ascending, and wants you to remember, wants you to have that wholeness of who you are. So you can talk to those beings or those aspects, however you want. It's hard to say that God is a being, but um, maybe there's a particular ascended master that you feel connected with, Jesus Christ, Yeshua, um, Buddha. There you have so much help on the other side. But my point is, you can talk to them and you can tell them, okay, this is what I'm recognizing. Can you help me to alchemize this? Help me to integrate this, help to dispel and to dissolve the the painful parts of this, the stinging parts. So for me, it was, okay, I'm recognizing that I have jealousy here. Help me to dissolve this jealousy. Help me to alchemize it. Help me to integrate this. Help me to accept the parts of me that I don't want to accept that are part of me, but I know I need to accept that that's part of me, and help me get through this and help me transform it. And that is how we grow. And that is how we keep remembering who we are. And you can do this. And again, you may need some help. So don't feel any shame in getting help. If you're dealing with something really heavy, please lean on other trusted people who are there to support you. We are not meant to go through this life in isolation. So, all of that being said, I bless you. Thank you for watching this. The replay for the Galactic Summit that I mentioned previously is available for purchase. That is $27. The free, it was available for free for 24 hours, but we've gone past that point now. And you may want to upgrade to VIP. And I would recommend getting my book, Your Authentic Awakening, A Guide to Everyday Spiritual Living. I know that this book is really helping people on their soul journey, on their path to ascension. So please look for that. You can find it on my website if you want a signed copy, if you're in the United States. Otherwise, it's available globally on Amazon, Barnes and Noble, and so forth. And I really appreciate your support in those ways, to help me keep going with my mission too. So thank you so much. Have a beautiful week. Many, many blessings.